This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. Negative impacts from the coronavirus may have affected your job, maybe your social life, and your well-being. I know they sure as hell have affected mine. If you're struggling through the pains of addiction or mental health disorder, now's the time to get some help. Let this be the opportunity to get you back on track and getting back to the real you. You're not alone, and Promises Behavioral Health is here, and it can help you. To learn more about Promises treatment options, here's what you can do. You can go to promisesbehaviorhealth.com/soberguy. The team over there created a great page. There's some resources on there. You can scroll around on there and get some info. You can also call 888-205-1890 and make sure you tell them that you heard about them from That Sober Guy podcast. They're great folks over there. I've worked with them personally over the last few years. They have family in recovery. They have friends in recovery, so they get it. Just give them a call, 888-205-1890. You got questions for yourself or a loved one, and they can help get you some information and some help that you might need. There's also additional virtual treatment options that they're looking at right now. Those offerings are only available for Texas and Florida residents. So if you're a listener, you're from Texas, you're from Florida, it's called the PATH program, providing access to hope. I put some links in the show notes there. If you'd like more information about those, be sure to check those out too. So with this new non-social fellowship meeting, because most of the clubhouses are closed, many of us have had to switch over to online meetings. I'd say they're serving a purpose. They're not my favorite, but they are doing what many of us can't do. We can't show up. We can't be in person right now. And so this is the next best thing, and they're actually working out okay for a lot of people. And the one my sponsor runs, it's daily AA. It's a daily AA meeting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. You can just go to www.zoomaameetings.com. You can jump right in. There's usually 40, 50 people on there. I'll be in there tonight at 6 o'clock on the Tuesday nights. But yeah, you can check that out. Also, Promises has their Rooted program. It's promisesbehaviorhealth.com/rooted, and that's their alumni program, but it's open up to all people right now, no matter what you're recovering from or what brought you to recovery. Also, tons of podcasts out there. We're talking to my buddy Asher today. He's got a podcast. My buddy Dopey, or Dave from Dopey Podcast, Recovery Elevator, to all kinds of good content out there. Of course, Sober Guy that you can tune into, and you can help bridge that gap if you're struggling out there. There's plenty of resources, all that good stuff, and some entertainment and some comedy too, because who the hell wants to just live a boring ass life sober, right? We want to have some fun. We want to be entertained. We want some good conversations, some good stories. So be sure to jump in a meeting if you're struggling, put a podcast on, reach out to somebody. You're not alone if you're struggling. I promise you, we've all been there before, and there is hope. So hang in there for sure. If it's your first time tuning in today, I got some great content for you, really good guests. We're going to have a great conversation, so stay tuned, and I'm glad you're here. Let's get this podcast on the road.
That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Shane Ramey. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. You can check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can also connect with us on Instagram at RealThatSoberGuy and on Twitter at Shane Ramer. My guest today is Asher Gottesman, and he founded Transcend, which is a nationally recognized recovery community based out of Los Angeles, California. And Asher's been sober for over 11 years. And he also produces and hosts a new podcast called Showing Up, which I had the honor of being on, which I think will be out here sometime soon as well. So thanks to him for that, for having me on as a guest. He's the father of 5. He's always helping somebody. He's a solid dude. We had a good convo a few weeks back, like I said, on his show. And so it's really an honor to have him on the podcast today. Asher, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing as good as can be. And I'd say adjusting to all this weird stuff that's going on right now in the world, but I'm pretty damn grateful. My family's healthy, and I'm still working, and I'm still doing podcasts, man, and connecting with good dudes like you. So how are you?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I'm trying my best to be in acceptance.
Yeah, which is much easier said than done.
Absolutely. And trying to, as a control freak alcoholic, trying to recognize that I truly have no control, and keeps on reminding me. And I think one of the solaces in this is, as an alcoholic, I always look for the differences, not the similarities. And when I'm in recovery, I look for the similarities and not the differences. Yeah. And at this point in time, I think all of us, I was saying, since Noah's Ark, I don't think the world has joined together in a communal suffering. So, it's really interesting that literally anywhere you go in the entire world right now, coronavirus is a thing.
Yeah, that is interesting that it's worldwide, because a lot of it, well, for so long, headlines and incidents and shootings, all kinds of stuff, it was always kind of isolated to certain pockets of the country or pockets of the world. And so you hear about them, but it's never a really reality unless you're there experiencing it. With this, it is totally different because it's absolutely on a global level. Everyone's been affected by it. And the recovery community, man, it's taken a huge, it's made a huge impact, I guess, on everything. We were talking a little bit before about how everything has had to change over to this digital, this digital format, I guess, from meetings to work. And man, one of the things that scares the shit out of me is I don't want to be a slave chained to a computer for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like, as crazy as that sounds. And we want the social aspect. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
The self part of me wants to say, fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I want, and if it means my end, that's okay, because it's my choice. And then, in this specific instance, if I get it, I do affect others. So going out, mask, being quote unquote irresponsible, it's not just my life.
Sure.
It's so analogous to recovery, right? Because so many of us, when we're in our active addiction, right, we're like, it's my life. Leave me alone. Let me use.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm just hurting myself, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not true, right? There's so many people that you're hurting by using, by doing, by not showing up.
Yeah.
Even those that don't have children, right? Everybody has a family, right? It's, and we get into this dark, isolated place a lot of times, and we're like, nobody cares anyway.
Yeah.
Might as well do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's not true. And today, I am really my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
I'm truly my brother's keeper. If I go out and I'm irresponsible and I give it to somebody who gives it to somebody who gives it to somebody, ultimately,
yeah,
I'm, so it's that to me is a very interesting balance, because we're asked to give up some of our basic freedoms. As I was saying to you before, I hate Zoom. I feel disconnected from it.
Yeah,
I like human contact. I'm a big hugger, and, I hug strangers. And I guess I will not be hugging strangers for a while.
Time. Yeah. No shaking.
Ever. I don't know what this means. I think that's the biggest thing for me is I don't know what this means.
Yeah. The uncertainty. You'd mentioned that before we started. And I think there's a lot of that for me too. Like, that future tripping comes in, like, what if, what will, why, how, all those things. And so there's no certainty in it. And that's, fear starts coming into that. And you just reminded me, my daughter, we finally saw some friends that came by and we hung out for a little bit, and she got to give her friend a hug. And she goes, man, I didn't realize how much I missed, hugging my friend or whatever. Like, man, it just felt so good to give her a hug. And I was never a hugger until I met my wife. My wife's family's big huggers. And so I've kind of came a long way too, but that's such a good point. Like, what's the certainty of that? Are we going to hug again? I am. I mean, I guess that's my choice, but I see the point at the same time. Now I'm probably going to be doing fist bumps or maybe some elbows to some strangers maybe, but it's crazy, man. And you got 5 kids, man. That's the one thing I wanted to bring up too. We talked about family a little bit and being a father and and having kids. How old are they? And then did any of your kids, were they born when you were still drinking or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I celebrated 12 years March.
Congrats,
19.
man. That's awesome.
And thank you. And I have a 22-year-old daughter who actually just got married.
Nice.
So now I actually have 6 kids.
you accumulated one more.
I thought I'd get rid of one. No, I got an extra. So I have a 22-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old son, a 17-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old son, and a 10-year-old daughter. So 4 actually were born prior to the recovery era.
Yeah,
I'd say the two younger ones really didn't know me drunk at all.
Yeah.
The 3 older ones have various different stories about it. My son who goes to NYU, I said to him, well, my addiction got you into NYU because you painted a picture of some dude that was really bad.
Oh yeah, he's the oldest then. Yeah, he's the 22.
No, he's the second oldest.
Oh, second to oldest. Okay.
Yeah, the oldest that still punishes me. So
Dad's getting beat up for life, huh?
Yeah, I think it's a lifer thing. So
yeah,
it's kind of like you get in a fight with a spouse or a girlfriend or whatever, and they'll remind you of what you did 42 years ago. So,
oh yeah. Totally, man. My wife can remember what I did 7 years ago on a Tuesday at 2:36 in the afternoon, man. She'll remember it to a T.
Yeah. Oh, so you deserve it, Dad, because you weren't here. Not the fact that I've shown up now consistently for, I'm not going to say 12 years because that's not true. To me, it's been learning how to show up. My greatest difficulty was being present.
Yeah,
I had an inability to truly be present unless it was a conversation that really drew me or something that was really interesting to me. You want to call it ADD. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just that I, as a parent, loved my children with all my heart and soul, wanted to give to them with all my heart and soul. I thought giving to them financially actually was the answer. And that's not. The answer is being present. And, I think I shamed myself, which made me less present. Once I was ready, I started literally, I want to say in almost 30-second increments. Oh, wow. So I'd say, okay, I'll play a game. And 30 seconds into the game, I'd get anxiety. And I just remind myself, okay, just finish the game and just pay attention and be there. And don't look at your phone. And, and it's literally a reminder and becoming an observer. And today it's a lot better. It's I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah.
So that's what 5 children kind of teach you. Then 3 really now are truly independent, not financially.
Yeah, not financially, but
and it's an interesting thing because whenever they, I don't want to, I guess are disrespectful. I don't want to say they are disrespectful. They act disrespectful. I just, want to say, screw you, cut you off, go figure it out.
Little bastards.
Yeah. And I know that's not the
answer, right? Totally.
That's just my anger. And it's not about my anger. I got to remember my goal. My goal is to have them be upstanding, loving members of society, right? I don't, let's make them productive, and it's not about me. And I want it to be about me all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess that's 5 children. And it's interesting because 2, I say sometimes is greater than 5.
Huh. Why is that?
So what I mean by that is, 1 is, man is whoa. 2 is, oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, whatever, figure it out. It's definitely from a financial insecurity perspective, 5 kids is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of mouths to feed, man. It's a lot of
I'm
food.
just saying college tuition today, right? That's $80,000 a year. Right?
Damn, in New York, yeah.
Yeah. So if all of them go to those kind of schools, 5 times 80 is not fun.
No, it's not very cheap. And at the same time, it's pretty awesome in the sense of accomplishment that, like, you know, from when your son was little, you know, and maybe we'll jump into a little bit of that, like what that life was like before, and then the transition into getting sober, and now he's in a top college, doing great for himself, I'm sure, and different, you know, bit of a different life than what could have panned out had you not made that decision, you know. And what was that like back in the day? Give us a brief kind of look back into what life was like for Asher.
You know, I was a periodic. So that's, you know, I wasn't a daily drinker. Miracle is I don't believe I ever drove my kids drunk. Not to say I myself didn't drive drunk. I did it plenty.
Yeah.
So I endangered other kids, just not mine.
Smart.
Not in the car itself.
Yeah.
But no, you know, so they, you know, it was silly. I was a, you know, gregarious drunk, but then I would, you know, I'd get drunk and I'd go out, you know, I'd ignore, you know, responsibilities. And that's where I think, you know, I suffered from abandonment issues and I created abandonment issues. So yeah. I think that was the number one thing that really happened. And, you know, yet on the other side of it, on the recovery side, is when my children struggled with their stories. I was able to be there for them in a non-judgmental way. So my struggles really turned into my greatest muscle in raising kids. And ultimately, I tell every parent, you know, today I get to work with other parents, and I say we fuck up our children the best way we know how, you know. So, you know, there's no guidebook, and what works for one doesn't work for another, and one turns out great, one turns out shitty. Like, who knows, man? Yeah. And, you know, so.
Well, they're all on their own path, you know, they're all on their own path. And I think we try to jump in and control that path. You need to do it this way or that way. And then we beat ourselves up and we feel like we didn't do it perfect, you know. And it's like, who was it that I think it was my sponsor, actually. He told me, you're going to jack your kids up. Like, there's no, you're not going to be perfect at it, you know? And so maybe there's some acceptance in that.
Yeah, totally. There is total acceptance in that and understanding of that. So totally. So I guess that's the 5-kid answer.
Yeah, it ain't cheap. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about Transcend, man? Let's talk a little bit about Transcend. Like, where did that kind of inspire you to, or how did that inspire you to start Transcend? And then give us a little background about what it is, how it started, where it is today.
Sure. So Transcend started when I was 9 months sober. So that's an interesting part of the journey. Cool. When I first got sober, I started studying with a rabbi who was in recovery himself, who runs spiritual leader of a treatment center called Beit Teshuvah in Los Angeles. It's a 120-bed nonprofit center. And I'm a deal maker, which means I'm a binger in that too. And so I said to the rabbi, Rabbi, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to be a deal maker anymore. And because I in order to survive, I need to be with other people. Yeah. And he said, you're going to go open up sober livings. And I was like, hold on a second. I don't have any experience. I don't have any knowledge, and I don't have any means right now. I said, how am I going to do that? He goes, you're going to go get a fucking house, and I'm going to fucking send you clients. So nice rabbinical language. So, and I heard, what did you say? There's emotional nudity on the show. Is that in your introduction?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Emotional.
Okay, so that was emotional nudity right there. So I may steal it, by the way, but just FYI.
Feel free.
Okay, done. So, so he said to do it, and I got a house. He helped me with the rules and regulations. He sent me people, and I joke, but it's true that our first house was in the hood. Our neighbors were roosters and gunshots. We charged $800 a month. And I think of call it 8 or 10 or 12, I don't remember, residents. One may have paid the full 800, and, and if you just got out of jail and were waiting for a bed in treatment, you came to me. If you got kicked out of treatment, you came to me. You had undiagnosed schizophrenia, bipolar, you name it, you came to me. And
damn,
I must have had an angel on my shoulder because the spoons went missing in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And I had no idea why. I snorted up my nose. So it's like, dude, you guys and your spoons.
Yeah.
So I did find out pretty quickly what it was, and and I think the greatest thing I gave anybody in the beginning was that knowledge that if you were honest with me, I'm not going to abandon you. That doesn't mean you can stay here. That means I will be on your journey with you. We'll figure it out. I'm not going anywhere. I don't judge you. I'm not angry at you. I don't take it personally, even though I did many times. Yet, when you lie to me, there's nothing I can do to help you. So that's how Transcend started. And then I realized that there wasn't an environment that offered a sense of community, long-term community in the higher end world. In the lower end, you had Beit Tshuva, you had communities of people that stayed in long-term treatment, but you really didn't have that in the higher end. So I was like, okay, that'd be really cool if I can offer that and create community, because community is non-judgmental. It's loving, it's kind, it's caring. It comes with a lot of shit too.
Yeah.
Yet, to me, that to me is what AA is really all about. Yes, you work the steps. It's not treatment, right? It's not, but it's an adjunct to every treatment because it's community. Mm-hmm. It encourages you to keep doing the work, and the work you need to do. So that was really our entire goal in Transcend, was how do I create a community that is non-judgmental, loving, kind, caring, of service, that helps you understand that you can do your work. You can be on your journey no matter what.
Yeah. So it started with the house.
With the house.
Rabbi told you. Yeah. What does it look like today?
Yeah. Today we have 13 houses.
Damn.
We have operations in New York, Los Angeles, and Houston, Texas. I'm no longer the CEO. I'm the chairman. I have a CEO who's a clinical social worker, PhD, because I wanted everything run clinically these days.
Yeah.
Also, separating church and state, I think, is important. And so we have intensive treatment as well, partial hospitalization, all the way down to outpatient treatment. And then we also offer case management services around the world, where we have individuals that will be there with you, whether it's people who need med compliance, who don't have addiction issues, all the way up to people that really need 24-hour supervision because for whatever reason they are still having difficulty functioning life on life's terms.
Do you still talk to the rabbi that when you started this?
Unfortunately not as much.
I was going to say it'd be gregreat to hear a podcast with him.
Yeah,
no, he's just great. The snippet.
He's wonderful. I would encourage you to reach out to him. He's a great man. And because it's important to mention this. You asked me about the rabbi, and it's on me. It's not on him. What I have done my whole life is put people on pedestals to knock them off, to show, oh, you see, you won't be there for me. You won't do it. Yeah. And I did it with him as well. And so, we are cordial, we're friendly, and he's a huge, important factor in my life.
Yeah.
Yet at this moment, it doesn't serve either of us.
Sure.
To be intimate in each other's lives. So, and I've learned that all people are human, right? And if you put anybody on a pedestal, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's funny too. Like, and I know this is I feel like it's relatable to the topic, but with all the stuff going on right now, we've put celebrities and Hollywood and all these people on these pedestals for so long. We've idolized them, and there's been blinders on to reality on what's really important, what's really going on, because it's like there's this big like hypnotization of this culture, right? And I feel like with this, it's, at least for me and some people that I've talked to too, it's really slowed everything down. It's almost kind of pushed it back to the 80s, I feel like too, which has been great. By the way, I've been even listening to 80s music lately in my workouts and stuff, just turn on the 80s play mix and rocking out. But it's kind of pushed things back to that. And to see that, just to your point, everybody is a human being. Everybody has their shit. Everybody has peaks and valleys and things that they go through, you know what I mean, in this life. And so we're human at the end of the day. So how about we just look at it like that? Like, you know, and yeah, some people have some awesome jobs, man. People who hit baseballs for a living, or they, you know, they get to be a character in a movie. That's an awesome job. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we're all going through stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely.
So one of the things I wanted to jump in and ask you about too was, and you can feel free to go as deep or high level as you'd like, the 3 pillars of recovery. So you said it's accountability, community, which we touched on briefly, and then unconditional love. Do you maybe want to jump into a couple of those, especially for somebody who's new out there listening, who's like, what the hell is recovery? I think that's a great way to explain it.
So I want to start with the unconditional love thing, because, you know, everybody says, it's not possible, it's not true, but it doesn't really exist. And I say it's the 2 pure forms of unconditional love are service, which is being there for another human being without any expectation of return. So when I give to you without an expectation of return, you receive and I receive, and that's pure, and that's pure love, and that's unconditional love. And there's no greater high than that.
Yeah.
Scientifically, emotionally, spiritually speaking. So there's scientific evidence to show that when people are of service, the same endorphins that you would get from drug use, you get from that. So that's something that's really important. And because I find that the journey of recovery is all about creating self-worth.
Yeah.
And self-esteem.
Yeah.
And the cliche is esteemable acts lead to self-esteem. So
I was saying it in my head because I remember it from treatment. Just, and how do we create self-esteem? By doing esteemable acts. Everyone would fucking shout it out. But yeah, it's good, man. It's yeah.
So that's, and then the other form of unconditional love is forgiveness. You know, we as humans carry the sack on our shoulder, and it gets really heavy.
Yeah. Of
all these resentments, anger. And many times we are victims of some terrible shit. Yet being a victim doesn't help. And when we offer forgiveness, again, we are giving the other person the opportunity to have their journey without my burden on them. Yet equally, I'm giving myself the ability to relieve myself of that 100-pound weight on my shoulder.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 pure forms of unconditional love. Now, how do I get to that place? Right? How do I get to a place where I that is a part of my story, where I'm not living in my shit? And that's where community and accountability come in. If I have a community of like-minded people, of people that have been through a similar journey, I have no excuses anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because I could look at you, and if Shane, who's that dope fiend, can do it, I can do it too. And yet, because so often we say, oh, you don't get it. Well, now you're in a room full, or a community full of people that all get it. Right? So you got no excuses.
Yeah.
And then accountability is on the days that I don't want to do it. Who's holding me accountable? My community.
Yeah.
So they all work hand in hand. And that's how I came up with the 3 pillars. Is, to me, growing up in a Jewish household and in the Jewish world, the negative was a very big issue for me. It was the focus on rituals and the focus on what I'm not doing and how I'm disappointing God and so on and so forth. When I was able to take a step aside and look at all the beautiful things I did learn, loving thy neighbor like thyself, charity, always being able to return, God never leaves me, at least for me, so having that new understanding of God for me, I saw all those beautiful things in the community, visiting the sick, showing up for somebody you never even met.
Yeah.
A like-minded journey. And that's to me why the rooms of AA and the community of recovering people is the most spiritual place in the world. Because that being in a room where your only like-mindedness is to be a better human being, to get rid of the ills that drove you to behave foolishly, or use medicine that really ultimately is going to kill you. That is, to me, spirituality, right? No religious basis for it. No dictatorship around it. I'm here because I just want to be better. I'm not forced to be here. I want to be here. And that to me was the greatest gift of this whole thing, and infusing it with Judeo-Christian values, right? Infusing it, utilizing, because religion, I think, is great. Religious people suck.
I love
Not all of them.
Yeah, I got you though.
Many are unbelievable. Yet that's when you start to focus on only the rituals, you forget that the whole purpose is to guide you to be a better person, guide you to have a better life. So, I don't know if that answers the question or whatever tangent I just went on.
It's great. No, it's great. And I love the fact of a couple things. Number one, the difference between religion and a relationship with God. Like, I never had that understanding really until I had this moment with God that actually pushed me to get sober. And from then it's been a completely different thing and a completely different learning process and daily. And then the other thing you said is, I think you said God's always with me. And I would even add to that, for me, God has always been with me. He's always been there, even when I couldn't recognize it when I look back now, you know what I mean? That's what's so crazy. Sometimes as I look back at some of the things and I go, man, like he was with me then, like he was, but I wasn't spiritually awake to recognize it. I was completely just in my addiction and in myself and all that. And so, yeah, it's like and then that ties into the mercy and the grace of God, like on my life and my past and my present and what he has for myself and our family for the future. I think that is really what motivates my ass to get up every day too. I want to see like what, God has in store for the day. And it might sound cheesy or whatever, but it's honestly, like, I love it. What is going to come of today? Like, I have this opportunity, even in some weird ass times like this, you know what I mean? To, to see what's next. So, no, it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that scares a lot of people away from, or maybe do you think that that's why a lot of people have an issue with God, just because there's a misunderstanding between religion and like a relationship with a higher power or God or whatever somebody wants to call it?
So I think, I think that we're taught based on the dogma of our families, our communities, and where we come from, and we're not given the opportunity to find it for ourselves. And I think that leads to a lot of anger, resentment, because when people are forced to do something, they usually don't want to do it, and even if they do it, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. So I think people come in with this misconception and this, this vision of something that's really uncool. And, and kind of that's why I've come on this new part of the journey, getting rid of the word sober and using the word recovery, because we're all in recovery, right? Every human being in this world can be in recovery, right? We all got shit, and I want to join us in forces to say, okay, I just met somebody the other day who told me that her husband's sober and she has bipolar disorder. And she used the 12 steps to guide her in her bipolar disorder. I'm not suggesting use the 12 steps. Use it, don't use it. I don't give a shit. I'm just suggesting that you look at me and see that I'm a gentleman in recovery, which means I'm identical to you.
Yeah.
You look at me and I may be a Jew from Beverly Hills, but I am no different than any other human being. I have a heartbeat. I have a soul. I have 2 feet, 2 arms, 2 eyes. That's it. That's who I am at its core.
Yeah.
Right. When I came out of that womb, I was no different than you were. And life may have thrown shit at me that didn't throw at you and threw at you that didn't throw at me. Yet let's join in that journey. Let's figure out how to be in recovery together.
Yeah,
right.
That's good.
I'm looking at you, and growing up, I would have been scared of a guy like you. I would have said, oh, neck tattoo. There's no way we have anything in common. He's going to kick my ass, right? He's the guy that's going to put me in the locker. That separates me from you, right? That doesn't allow me to see you. And today, in being in recovery, I see you.
That's good.
Right? I don't see your exterior. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I'm not afraid to have a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Even if your predisposition is to hating me, you want to be a neo-Nazi and hate me because I was born a Jew. Let's go and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What about me do you hate?
Yeah.
You hate the fact that I came out of a womb from a history of somebody. Okay. Let's talk about that, and so
that's good, bro.
I guess that's really the new iteration, and that's hence for the podcast, hence for some writings. It's all about just see me as a dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I love that everybody's in recovery too. Like people ask about, why do you still go to those meetings or what is that about? And I wish the one thing I try to convey to people is that, gosh, it's so much less about alcohol and drugs. I mean, yeah, obviously that's an issue, but it's a program, no matter what program it is, there's all kinds of different ones, but some sort of program that is keeping us spiritually awake and spiritually fit so we can learn how to live a decent life. And that's recovery. That's kind of what you're talking about, is that we're all in it. We all have ups and downs. And, when we get to have access to that community, people, and be able to work on that, man, it's so big. And so that kind of brings me into the last kind of part I want to get into before we wrap this thing up today is the podcast, man. How's that going? It's called Showing Up. So guys, go subscribe to it. iTunes, Spotify, it's on the website, I think, as well. I put a link in the show notes to that too. You've got some great guests on there. It's from all different backgrounds, different types of people. And one thing is everyone's kind of in some sort of recovery. They've been through something. They have a story. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, I thought it'd be a much easier journey, and, I wanted to already celebrate my 100,000 listeners. Nice. I'm not there at all. And, and when I look at the numbers, the message I give myself is, you suck. So stop doing it.
Dude, I've been there. Still do it till today. Trust me. We're always comparing. What about this week? Why? Oh, no.
Yeah. Why did 7 episodes do 7 times the amount of this episode?
I know.
And the answer is, I have no idea. So the lesson for me in this podcast, the greatest lesson is consistency and showing up and just doing it. I found that I really, really enjoy it. So that's something that's, I love connecting with people. I just love it. And I'm actually good at it.
Yeah.
So that, and so the podcast was, I did an outline last year of how can I get my message to the most people? And was it a book? Was it a TV show? What is it? And anybody can do a podcast, right? And that's cool. And I just said, you know what? Let me put it out there.
Yeah.
Let me show up. Hence how I got the name. And, it's showing up with Asher Gottesman or Asher G. I think there's a couple other showing ups. And if you listen to those, good. Listen to those too. And so I found that, again, it's a form of service, right? It's a form of unconditional love for me, right? I get to be there with other people. I've learned, I think the greatest message of showing up is it's not about me. I get to be there with you on your journey.
Yeah.
Right? I don't change people's lives. Maybe me being there with you, offering you the support of holding your hand when it's really hot in hell or really cold in hell. I don't know what. I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah.
Then, you feel you get the courage. You're able to be vulnerable and show up.
Yeah.
So, do I want to be Brene Brown? Sure. And my first podcast gets listened to by hundreds of thousands. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Am I hoping on the journey that I don't give a shit about that? Yes. So
it's a lot easier that way.
Yeah. And so bottom line is it's the next, it was the next iteration of the journey. It's how do I connect with the most people? How do I utilize the net to be there? And I get to meet cool people every week, and I connect with people, and I'm looking forward to the day where I can do it in person again.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm with you there. I'm actually going to do one in person tonight with a couple of buddies. They just started they're a couple of CrossFit coaches. And so they're funny ass dudes too. So they have some good comical stuff, but then they're pretty dialed in the CrossFit world and stuff. So we're going to talk a little fitness and some recovery stuff too. So I'm looking forward to that in-person one too. This will be the first one that I've done in a while. But I wanted to say, you are good at it. Number one, I really had a great time coming on, showing up a few weeks back, or it's probably been over a month by now. Time flies, but you do a great job of kind of picking the brain. I'll say, maybe I'll kind of put it like that, but allowing the guests to show up and to share a little bit and I think the one thing is making a connection. Like there's a connection there, a good conversation, have some fun a little bit. It's not like we talk about some serious shit in recovery, right? But it's not it's not that damn serious at the same time. Like we gotta lighten it up a little bit, and you do a good job of that. Like I think I was talking about learning how to play the guitar by taking a shit or something. As crazy as that sounds, but anyways, man, what I'm saying is I appreciate it. Like, thank you for having me on the podcast. You've had a ton of other guests on there too. And then the other thing I want to ask you, are you writing a book too? Are you in the
working
process?
on it.
Yeah. How's that going? I've been thinking about that.
So I'm committed to radical honesty.
Yeah.
That's, that's my new thing.
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'm committed to radical honesty. So that's been a issue of mine on the book because I have 5 children too.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to balance. So yeah, I've been doing the outline. I had a writer that called me up. He actually went through our program that said he really would like to, he really liked to write my story. So I'm going to write it. I don't know when I'll publish it.
Yeah. That's good though. It's about the process anyways. It's a ton of work, man. I can relate to you on that. When you just look at the outline, you just go, geez, how the hell am I going to do this, man?
Yeah, exactly. So again, if it takes me 20 years, it's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all right.
As long as I'm still here.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right. Well, one last question for you, man. I'll let you go. I appreciate your time today. I think it's been fun. Someone out there struggling right now, they don't know what to do. They're just kind of lost a little bit. What advice could you give them, Asher?
I think reach out. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, it's a disease of isolation, and it's a disease of a mentioning to your head that you don't deserve, you don't belong, nobody will get you. Just don't do it alone. Know that there are people out there. DM me, okay? Go to, at the Asher G on Instagram. DM me. Go to my website and send me a message. Email me, whatever. And call somebody. Show up. Go to meeting. Now today it's harder because of online stuff. But as you said, you're seeing some dudes tonight. You can social distance. People will show up for you. So, and that's, it was interesting. I'll end with this story because I think it's an important story. I have a client of mine that's doing his DUI courses, and it's on Zoom. So I happened to have been there when he was doing it. And let's say there are 20 people in the Zoom room, and one guy was wasted. Oh, wow. And in any other place in the world, they would have shamed him, and they would have told him what a fuck up he is. Mm. And what they did was they're like, dude, we get it, and we're here for you. And literally like 10 people gave him their personal phone numbers. Wow. So ask for a number, talk to people, and acknowledge others. That much I can tell you. Don't, get the fuck out of your head.
That's a great sample right there. I love it. That's good. Yeah. Hey,
I think that's a good way to end, right?
I do too.
Fuck out of your head.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. I appreciate it,
Thank you for having me on, bro.
Yeah, hopefully we get to meet one day in person. I'm down in Los Angeles occasionally stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm down in Vacaville every week, so I'm kidding.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to Vacaville. Sorry, bro.
But I'll
come.
Yeah, you probably drove through it. Maybe on your way to Sac something, you recognize you're down by about 3 exits and you're through it, but... Yeah, man.
For sure.
Good stuff.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, guys.
Stay in touch, and I look forward to both of us putting this out there, and hopefully somebody gets a message.
Absolutely, man. That's the goal. Yep.
Okay. Well, keep going.
Thanks, brother.
It's important. Okay, take care.
Thank you. See you.
Peace. Bye.
Guys, thanks for tuning in today. If you want to reach out to Asher, find more, you can go to AsherGottesman.com. Also Instagram, it's at the Asher G. And then also TranscendRecoveryCommunity.com. You can find that there. And I put all those links in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to find that, you can do that there. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to Promises. You can be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com and at RealThatSoberGuy on Instagram, at Shane Raymer on Twitter. Love you guys. Stay up, stay positive. Get through this all together. Peace, love, and respect, and keep your blood clean.